The Kirby franchise is known for a lot of things, and boss battles is definitely a highlight. It is known to reach some great heights as some of the best boss battles in video games, and some of the boss battles are not necessarily as great. But if you guys didn't know, last year we were making videos trying to pick out the best boss from every single Mario game, the worst boss from every single Mario game, and we just made tons of videos like that. And you guys have been begging to move on to a new franchise, so today we are starting the Kirby franchise. We are going through all 26 games. Yes, that means mainline and spin-off Kirby games, and picking the worst boss from every single game. Now, I know a lot of you guys think that the worst boss might just always be the first, and I can tell you right now, the majority of this list is not the first boss. There will also be no mini bosses included. You will not have Kirby Dream Course as there's only one boss, and any game with one boss does not count as well, and no puzzle games on this list either. So before we dive into all these Kirby games, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in today, and let's try to reach 300,000 subscribers. We are very close, sitting at 278,000. Let's see how many we can get from this one video. If you really love Kirby, show me. Leaving a like and subscribing, it goes a long way. But let's jump into our list of the worst boss battle from every single Kirby game ever. Starting off with Kirbys Dreamland, this is the deluxe version, Wispy Woods, which is the first major boss of this game. Yes, I had to pick Wispy Woods here because he literally is just so bland of a boss battle. You can literally just stand in the corner of the screen, pick up apples and chuck them at him, and you'll never get hit, especially if you just fly up to the top left. It's a very easy pattern. It's really the only attack that he has. Kirby's Adventure, I chose Heavy Mole. Heavy Mole is a strange boss battle to me. I just don't think it's that fun to just follow this giant machine as it's digging through the ground. I mean, seriously, it's just a super slow side scroller where you're slowly following this thing, and if you don't have a copy ability, you have to just keep on waiting for it to casually release one of its little minions out of its butt. Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of Heavy Mole, where most of Kirby's boss battles are very fast-paced and intense, where this one's a very long waiting game. Kirby's Pinball Land, I did have to go with Wispy Woods because he's kind of just sitting in the middle of the stage. It's really hard to miss him since all you have to do is fling Kirby up towards the middle, and the only attacks once again are just some apples with some Gordos that will occasionally prevent you from moving one of your bumpers, but for the most part it really is not that much of a challenge whatsoever, where the other bosses do at least add some uniqueness to them. Next up we have Kirby's Dreamland 2. I'm normally not a big fan of underwater battles, and that's probably why I put Sweet Stuff on this list, is because you have to get really close to his face underwater and pretty much just squirt bubbles right in his face. Now with no copy ability and you just spitting bubbles, it makes this fight kind of boring, and you have to consistently get very close to it in order to hit it, which is also constantly attacking you and randomly just charging you as well, which means you're probably going to take a lot of hits unless you're really good at remembering its patterns and how it moves. Next up we have Kirby's Block Ball, and I actually have two for this one. The first one is Squishy, which is normally just a regular Kirby enemy, just kind of blown up into a boss battle here, but yeah, this one is just very annoying because Squishy slowly moves spots left to the right, to the left, to the right, and it's so hard sometimes to hit him because it's all based on how the ball bounces off of your platforms, which means you could be doing this one for a very long time. And Mr. Frosty is probably even worse, as he just stands in the middle of 3 platforms and just waits for the ball to hit him, which means you just kind of have to get the ball in between the 3 platforms, which isn't necessarily hard, but it's just time consuming as you're just sitting there waiting. The only real threat is if you hit the ball up towards the middle, he'll just grab Kirby and chuck him in a random direction. So that's really the only true attack that he'll do, but for the most part, he'll just stand in the middle the whole time. Kirby Superstar has some pretty fun bosses, and for this list, we're combining both Superstar and Superstar Ultra, but I had to pick a boss that pretty much just didn't resonate as well with the others, and that would definitely be the Reactor in Meta Knight's Airship. The Great Halberd has some fun boss battles, and this one definitely is not terrible, but as far as the rest, yeah, it's pretty basic. You just gotta kind of guide this laser to shoot the Reactor's core, and that's it. So that means lots of waiting around and waiting for the laser to come down in order to fire it at Kirby. So you're probably just dodging some super basic attacks, and you probably know the pattern and the angle at which you want the laser to shoot every single time, so you're just sitting and waiting. It's a waiting game. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I do not like Lo or La or Pon and Con, and that's where we are right now with Kirby Dreamland 3. Pon and Con are just this fox and raccoon that walk back and forth left and to the right on the screen, and it's your job to grab the little ones to throw them at the big ones. To me, I just don't feel like this is more of a boss battle. It feels more like a big enemy that you're just taking down, and I don't know. I feel like this boss battle isn't that fun or isn't that creative and really isn't that hard whatsoever. It's just kind of moving out of the way when they're coming at you. You can drop down or jump up. It's that simple. Now for crystal shards, I got technically 2 since one could be looked at as a mini boss, but yeah, the very first boss you fight in this game is just a Waddle Dee. Yeah, it's a Waddle Dee that just tries to run at you and smacks his head on the wall. It's so unbelievably simple and just goofy, I can't even take it serious. I know it's trying to get you into the game, but it's just so funny. But if I had to choose an actual boss later in the game, it would definitely be Magman. Magman just, look at him. It just feels like the laziest boss design ever, where it's just a big pile of lava with a face, and the way to hit it is actually to shoot its like lava tentacles that it shoots at you. So it's just moving back and forth and shooting the lava, which just still feels weird considering the fact that you're shooting it with lava enemies. It doesn't make sense. And then part 2, you're kind of just slowly running away from the thing where you're just grabbing debris and spitting it right back at it. It's okay. It's still not terrible, but it's strange, and it's just a weird boss design. Next, we have Kirby Tilt and Tumble, and there is a very strange boss battle in this game, and that is against Kracko, where essentially you grab a pea balloon, or Kirby's form of the pea balloon, and you just kind of spit air at Kracko in the air as you tilt Kirby left and to the right and dodge Kracko's attacks. Now, for this game, there's only really 3 boss battles. There's the Observer, there's Kracko, and then there's King DDD. So this one, to me, just felt like the least inspired, where you're just kind of shooting Kracko until the timer runs out and you have to get another pea balloon. Next up, we have Nightmare in Dreamland, and with this being a remake, technically, of Kirby's Adventure, you know what I'm choosing. Freaking Heavy Mole. Yep, it's the same battle you remember too. It's pretty much just like fighting a giant lawnmower as this thing's slowly just chipping away at the dirt. You just gotta sit there and wait for it to poop out enemies at you, and it's just so time consuming, so definitely make sure you go into this boss battle with some type of copy ability or you're going to lose your mind. On further inspection, you know what this looks like? Okay, let's move on. Moving on to the Amazing Mirror, I can tell you right now, it looks like Heavy Mole's getting replaced with Moly. Moly has gotta be one of the worst bosses on this list. Watch this gameplay. Yeah, there's not much of a threat with this entire boss whatsoever. You literally just stand beside it and just suck up whatever it's throwing and just chuck it right back at him. Like, that's really the entire boss fight. Yes, technically I think it can appear in different spots, but yeah, this boss is just a joke. In Kirby's Canvas Curse, you'll go up against Paint Roller, which is arguably another boss that is just laughably hilarious, where you're literally playing connect the dots against the guy. That's it. You connect the dots, you move faster. It's like a children's book. What is this? Look, for a game on the DS about using the stylus, I guess it makes sense to a degree, but at least can we have harder shapes than a circle or even a heart? And guess what? Moly found himself a girl because Squeak Squad, we have Mrs. Moly, which is pretty much the same thing. But dare I say, it could be kind of worse. Now, if you have a copy ability, it's not that terrible. But if you go into this without a copy ability, yes, you might be put in an endless loop of it using the same exact attack over and over again, which is it digging into the background and diving into the foreground, where you have to have it slam onto the concrete for it to deal damage to itself. That's how it damages itself. You don't even attack it. I mean, there's no way to attack it, especially if it keeps doing this, and there's times where it can literally do this for like 3 minutes straight. And look at the amount of damage that it does to itself. Please bring a copy ability in here. Moving on to Kirby's Epic Yarn, we do finally have to go back to a first boss again, because a lot of the bosses in this game are actually a lot of fun, where this one is just dodging his attacks and then grabbing his tongue when he gets tired. That's really about it. He does have some attacks though, like breathing fireballs and also shooting a giant speared tongue at you, but yeah, he just gets tired and you pull his tongue. It's nothing super crazy, but it is a fun and entertaining first boss battle of the game, so it's not terrible by any means. For Kirby Mass Attack, I chose 2, even though I believe one of them to definitely be the worst boss battle, but the first one I have is Lady Ivy, which is a giant spiked flytrap plant that is trying to eat you and throw enemies at you. All you have to do is lower the teeter-totter in order to smack it in the head by just moving all your Kirbys to one side. This isn't like terrible by any means, but Freezy Rex just literally made me laugh out loud the first time I played this. It is the weirdest looking boss battle in a Kirby game ever. What is this? Like, is his head an oven mitt? Besides it being a giant T-Rex made out of ice spheres and a frozen oven mitt, this is a very weird boss battle. You're just kind of running away from the thing, breaking down big pieces of ice and just trying to run away. That's it. You actually are not doing any physical damage. It's just kind of damaging itself when it gets to a certain point for some reason. Next up, we have Kirby's Return to Dreamland, where you're going through the entirety of World 3 seeing giant underwater eels and other giant creatures down there, so I'm expecting a huge underwater boss fight until... Who names a boss Fatty Puffer? Like, this is not Fatty Whale. I'm personally not a big fan of Fatty Puffer. I feel like it's just an ugly boss battle, and it's just very boring to fight, and every time I replay this game, I really dread this one. It's just like this big, round puffer fish that's just rolling around the stage and occasionally shooting water at you. It's just not a fun boss battle. Kirby's Triple Deluxe had some really good boss battles, but Paintra felt like it was done very simplistically compared to something like Drawcia in the past, where I was really expecting Paintra to draw all types of crazy things and actually to have some uniqueness within the boss battles. But by halfway through the battle, it's finally starting to draw things, and I guess this is supposed to be tricky? Yeah, instead of bringing paintings to life in a cool way, she just kind of paints three things, and one of them looks horribly drawn, and you can definitely tell which one's the fake one. But yeah, it's not a terrible boss battle at all, but yeah, I just wanted to see a little bit more from the creativity of Paintra, and the potential there was very high. Kirby's Rainbow Curse doesn't have too many boss battles and repeats a lot of them in just different environments, but Hoop Lagoon felt very off and weird to me. It wasn't really that interesting of a boss fight, as it was like this giant cog that was just spinning around, and all you had to do was smash its different plates, and it was dead relatively quick. Especially when it got bigger, if anything, it felt like it made it more easier in order to hit these pieces. But yeah, I felt like this one just wasn't that interesting, as you're put in a very small, tightly squeezed room and just smashing armor plates off of this thing. Next up, we have Kirby Planet Robobot, where I chose two because one may not be considered a full boss battle. First one being Cogs, which is this giant defense mechanism where you actually had to kind of just shoot down the turrets. It's really quick and easy. You'll beat it in just a couple of seconds. And then you have the Hollow Defense API, which is more of a real boss battle, which kind of pits you up against old bosses, or technically lots of them are old mini bosses. But yeah, it's okay. It's nothing super crazy, and it just overall was very forgettable, and you never really fight the actual API defense system itself. Next up, we have Team Kirby Clash, and I chose Taranza, which is a weird boss battle because you never really fight him in any other Kirby game. This is the first time you actually get to fight him, and he's not actually controlling King Dedede like he does in Triple Deluxe. But this one's very strange. He just kind of slowly teleports around the stage and does an occasional attack, and a lot of the time you'll knock him out and he'll just kind of sit there for a while. His attacks aren't that crazy either, and it's not really that hard to take him out. Now, I know all Kirby boss battles are really just button mashers, but this one really felt like it was, as it was just slowly moving and you were just spamming it with your heavy attacks. Next up, we have Kirby's technically first 3D debut with Blowout Blast on the 3DS, where you get to fight Lo and La, but in 3D, and they're just as boring as they are in 2D. Yep, they're just kind of moving in and out of these different rooms and pushing blocks and stuff, and you just suck them up, spit it right back at them. It's nothing that intense. It's actually very boring. I normally just don't like these type of boss battles. It's also why I just never was a big fan of Pon and Con, and this one is just no exception. Kirby Battle Royale actually has a couple of boss battles in this game, but the ones with Meta Knight, which I guess are technically boss battles, just were annoying. If anything, Meta Knight and his henchman just walks around and just tries to bother you as you're collecting and trying to do the objective. He's literally just like a nuisance in a Mario Party minigame the entire time, and you can just keep hitting him out of the way, and that's like the only role that he serves in this game. He's like an annoying little brother that just keeps pestering you the entire time. Look, I've never been a big fan of Kirby Star Allies, and I think I know the reason why. Well, two reasons why. We get the good old return of Pon and Con, that raccoon and fox all the way from back in the day, and they're just as boring as you remember. Yep, they slowly, and I mean slowly, walk across the screen. I mean, look at this. It's like a brisk jog. They do speed up a little bit on the halfway mark, and their gold and silver versions for later on in the game are a lot faster, but these are just not that interesting. And even when they're sprinting, it's so easy to get out the way. The screen in the battle arena is so huge, and yep, it just still doesn't even feel like a battle arena. It's just random platforms, and you're just chucking their kids at them, or whoever these little followers are. For Super Kirby Clash, there's like over 100 different bosses you can fight, so I don't know which ones are considered mini bosses, which ones are real bosses, so I'm just picking a couple that I thought was just silly and ridiculous. Hornhead is one of the first bosses you fight, which is just literally a joke. You can knock it out with like the weakest gear and armor that you got in like 10 seconds, but I think I want to also say just any of the colossal enemies, which just cracks me up. Like Colossal Spear, Waddle Dee is pretty much a joke. It's just one big enemy that you get to take down. Same with like Colossal Kabu, which is just this big head. In Kirby Fighters 2, there's only like 4 bosses in the entire game, and 2 of them are like 2 mini bosses just slapped together, which is Duo Edge, both of the edges, one flame one, one regular one, and that's really about it. And yeah, the battles themselves are just like fighting 2 mini bosses. It's nothing too special considering the fact that every other boss in the game feels like a major boss battle, but yeah, this one just was okay to me. And finally, last but not least, number 26, we have Kirby and the Forgotten Land with Fecto Forgo. Now this one was hard to choose, and I know a lot of people love this boss battle, and I thought it was pretty unique and interesting too. But the bosses in this game are actually all really good, so this one was really hard to narrow down. So I had to pick the one that was probably the least amount of fun out of all of them, and it definitely was Fecto Forgo, just running down a hallway. Yeah, you were running from this giant creepy creature, but once you realize that it's not much of a threat and there's like no time limit or anything, and you can just keep going and going and going, it's not really that scary or anything like that. You just dodge some of its really slow attacks and then spit things at it as you're going down the hallway. And that was fighting the worst boss in every single Kirby game, going through 26 different games. Thank you guys so much for making it to the very end of this video. I absolutely love making videos like this, so definitely let me know. If you guys want to see more like this, including the best boss from every single Kirby game, definitely leave a like and subscribe, and just let me know how much you enjoyed this, and what is your least favorite boss from every Kirby game. Do you agree with some of my picks? Do you disagree? Let me know down below. And like always, I will see you all on the next one. See you guys.